And what's up, everybody? Welcome to a Tuesday UFC DFS show with some $1 million mission vibes. Welcome, I'm Brian Jester, co-founder here at Occupy Fantasy. Here tonight, Tuesday, to recap the DraftKings MMA live final, the MMA World Championship down in Jacksonville this past weekend. Joined by my brother, my co-host, and fellow guest of the World Championship, Moose. What's up, man? How you feeling?
Pretty good. You don't sentence you don't normally hear every day. I wish I was still in Jacksonville.
I know, right? Yeah, we were chilling down there pretty good for a few days, and now it's back to reality. So, this is a live stream, and if you guys have questions about anything, throw it in the YouTube chat box to the right of the video. If you're watching this on replay, which you likely are, drop a comment below the video. This will be up for a long time, so any comments you drop, we will see and we will get back to them. And so, what we want to do here, I think, Moose, we have two goals really, right? One is to recap the experience to tell people who have never been to a live final what that looks like. And then secondarily, this is kind of a unique contest, 15 entries, some of the sharpest players in the world, and analyze the contest and talk about some strategy for it.
It sounds like a plan. I'm here for it.
Yeah, so as you see on screen here, for those of you who aren't aware, you weren't following, you didn't try to qualify, you don't really play MMA DFS, that's fine. I think you'll find this show interesting regardless. So DraftKings has live finals in most sports. You have basically all season. I'm not really sure what the season is in MMA. They normally do this in late summer. But really, what happens is there are 100 qualifying spots. You enter qualifier satellites throughout the year. Once you get to 100, there's an online round one play down from 100, and then the top 40 advance. After that, there's a round two play down, the top 40 there play, and the top 15 go to the live final in Jacksonville, Moose. And I will say I had two entries in round two, and I know you were sweating because you wanted to come on the trip, and that was quite the sweat itself.
Yes, it was. I know you you fight stacked the last fight with Dern and Hill, and I had loaded up the Excel spreadsheet. Doing the live ESPN tracking through each round, seeing how many points you needed. 13 strikes this round, 12 next round, and yeah, we just squeaked by. You just barely got by. So in total, it was both entries got through. So 4 people, including you, went down.
So that's the nice thing. If you do have multiple entries to a live final, it's hard enough to get one. I was very fortunate enough to get two. When that happens, usually if you have a seat, you get a guest. So Moose is my guest. If you get a second seat, you get to bring a guest to replace that seat, and they get a guest as well. So in this trip alone, I got 4 people, myself included, to come down. It was Moose, and then 2 longtime friends came down with me. So it was an excellent time. And so Moose, let's just talk about the experience. All 15 of us, or I guess it was 13 of us, because 2 of us had multiple entries. We actually stayed at the Margaritaville Resort in Jacksonville Beach, which I'm not a big Margaritaville fan, but Margaritaville has some themes throughout our lives with Vegas and our parents and family friends. But this was a great resort, Moose. I got to say, DraftKings normally does it pretty nicely for these events, and I think the biggest benefit of this venue was it truly felt like a vacation.
Yeah, absolutely. It was nice to be a parrot head for a couple days. Shout out Jimmy Buffett. Like you and I talked about, Brian. If you know what you're going into with Margaritaville, beach vibes, real tropical, Jimmy Buffett style, over the top everything. It's great. It's a fantastic resort if you know what you're expecting. You walk into the room, Jimmy Buffett's playing. It's got his Instagram and Twitter account on the TV. Like it's a legit vibe. I'll say that.
Definitely a vibe. And I will say, some live finals, I've only been to a few, but some are more jam packed than others with activities and the itinerary. This one was pretty packed to the brim. We got there Thursday and we were basically doing things until we left Sunday morning. And the weather didn't cooperate as much, but we did get a little pool time in on Friday, which was nice to relax and chill. And I'm going to bring up the map here. And this was the one interesting thing to me was as you see on screen here, the map. We stayed in Jacksonville Beach, which is different than Jacksonville City, which is something I just learned maybe a week ago. And the hotel, give or take traffic, was 35 minutes from the venue, which means because we went there for the Weighins Moose, we came back. We went there for the
Yep.
event, and we came back. And unlike last year in Dallas, which is where the live final was for MMA, which was in walking distance from the hotel, to me, this was. I understand why DraftKings did it, and we all enjoyed the resort and the vacation away from the venue. And I do think it would have ended up like Dallas last year, where we complained that nothing was going on downtown. It was like a ghost town. But I would say, Moose, from a DFS preparation perspective, this made things a little difficult. And I know a lot of other contestants felt that way as well, just because a lot of us were thrown out of our routine on Saturday morning because the fight started so early and we were so far away from the venue.
Yeah. So, it wasn't 33 minutes, but it was more like 40 minutes away or so. Again, fight started super early. We had to get there early. We'll talk more about it, but we got the tickets to the suite, all that stuff. As I told you before, Brian, we were up early on Saturday, but I had a Korean lesson. I had to do that, and I'm trying to scramble in between like saying sentences and doing lineups on my phone, doing lineups on the bus. Like it was very jam packed. But I think it was nice that the fight started early because long travel time, a lot of logistics going in and out. It just worked out better. Not us walking across the streets of Dallas at 3 a.m.
Yeah, like it was last year. So, again, if you guys have questions, throw in the chat. We're here for the next 30 minutes or so. Yeah, so the fight started at 11:30. Our bus left the resort at 10, which means there was basically an hour and a half of not being able to use your laptop or however you typically build your lineups. And I think on an early start time, a vast majority of people, and those of you watching can tell me this, can agree or tell me otherwise, that when the fight started that early, Moose, you're likely using that hour and a half before the fight start to build lineups or tweak lineups. None of us had that luxury, and even I was hearing some stuff on the bus ride there that made me think about how my opponents were going to be playing some lineups, and I guess that wouldn't have changed no matter what time we left. But I just, and again, I'm very happy with how my lineups turned out, but I do think that factor alone was probably the least beneficial part to the experience.
Yeah, because again, we were jam packed as well with stuff. The night before, we had the weigh-ins. The weigh-ins were on normal time. We came back. There was at the bar there that DraftKings was helping out with. So a lot of jam packed. You didn't really have a lot of time the night before.
No.
So I feel for you, man.
Yeah, I mean, and we'll talk about the schedule here in a second, the itinerary, but got back late Friday night and I was planning on doing stuff then. I was so exhausted that I was like, whatever I do now is not going to be great. So I'm just going to wake up early and do it then. So schedule was thrown off a little bit, and I've talked about it before, trying to get into that same groove during the live final. But sometimes you just can't. You really can't. So we got there on Thursday afternoon. DraftKings hosted a welcome reception, which again, this was something we didn't have high hopes for, and this isn't a shot at DraftKings, right? It says there was a welcome reception at the hotel. It's Margaritaville. Like, how great could it be? But this was a fantastic experience because one, not only did we eat some prime rib, shrimp skewers, key lime pie, like the food was incredible. But I think the best part, and maybe one of the best parts in general of live finals, is meeting other contestants, people who got there, don't play that much, and they're casual players, people who are pros. Talking to all of them is one of the best parts of live finals.
Yeah, you walk by and you're like, I think I know that person, whether from so and so. It's like, who are you? It's like, oh, we talked online. Oh, I know who you are now. Never put the face to it. And again, like you said, the people who normally don't play as much, a casual player, for example, when they make a live final, you can always tell because they have a smile from ear to ear, like this is incredible.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, it's great meeting people. And I see we have a question here from Eagles that says, did DK pay for your trip there and home?
Yeah, so the nice thing was they paid for everything. And I mean everything. The only time I took out my credit card was to get one drink when the DraftKings staff wasn't around, and to pick up something from the shop, right? Like a little snack. They paid for the flights down. They paid for the hotels. They paid for all the transportation to and from the venue. They paid for Ubers, gave us Uber credits to and from the airport. Any drinks, if anybody from DraftKings was around, you were drinking at the bar or at the hotel or anywhere, they said, don't worry about it. We got it. Let's put this card on. So, I mean, they paid for literally everything. You and the other two guests didn't pay a dime for 4 days in Jacksonville Beach plus a UFC sweat. That includes the tickets, everything. We didn't have to pay anything. So, from that perspective, Moose, it was an amazing experience for you especially.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I think the only thing I paid for was the food truck and a couple beers, but that's about it. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, and Jake's in the chat says like stock food photography not sold. You actually even went. This is actual stock photos. I took it from Getty Images. Don't sue me. Didn't actually take pictures of the prime rib. Wasn't going to be that guy. So we do have. I think we have one actual picture or video in here to prove that we actually went. So stay tuned for that. So
Yes.
all right. So we got with the welcome dinner. We meet everyone again. And I, we're in our own little bubble here. Most we do our shows. We say, we have our members, our viewers, but it's always fun and a little bit weird. I'll even say when you meet people that you don't know that you've never met. Oh yeah, I know you. I watch your YouTube videos. You're from Occupied Fantasy. Oh, you're Brian. I love you and Jake's UFC videos, right? Things like that. That's always cool to see and really shows that sometimes we have a bigger impact than we even think we do.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I do like a video once a week for like 3 months. You know who I am?
Yeah.
Sweet. Okay, perfect.
Exactly. All right, so we have the welcome reception, right? And most of us are pretty tired. We go to bed that night. Next morning, DraftKings caters a brunch at the hotel. We have high hopes because the
Really quick, actually, can I interject? During that welcome, we also did get a gift bag as well, Brian.
oh yeah, they gave a gift bag. It's got some DraftKings times UFC branded swag. You have it on screen here, Moose. You about to show it?
Yeah, so they gave a little hoodie, DraftKings X UFC,
Oh, nice.
and a T-shirt as well.
Oh, cool.
Here, and actually of good quality too.
Yeah, it actually was pretty good quality. And actually, I got my like 30th DraftKings like zip bag. So not that I needed another one, but got that too. So they give us the swag bags. And the next morning we have a welcome brunch, or not a welcome brunch, but just a brunch, right? So we get there Thursday, welcome reception. Next morning we have brunch, and then they take us to the weigh-ins, and then DraftKings takes us out to dinner. Again, once again, jam-packed. This isn't your normal Friday afternoon before UFC if you typically play UFC DFS. So the brunch, got some more stock photos for you guys. Just excellent brunch food, bacon, eggs, Belgian waffles. Like just again surpassed expectations, Moose. When we're looking at hotel food, nothing against last year's venue, but I think the food vastly exceeded expectations this time around. Just again added to the experience.
Yeah, you're like, what is this waffle? You're like, this waffle tastes so good. I'm like, did you start drinking for once? Or but yeah, everything was really good, and yeah, nothing really more you can say. They had a like a bar station there as well. You had whatever drink pretty much you wanted there in the little conference room. Really solid.
Yeah, and so we talked about meeting other contestants, but also, and the brunch reminded me, sitting down with DraftKings staff, right? So my host was there. Shout out Dan, fantastic guy. And meeting some of the staff, so not just the host, but some of the event staff, some behind the scenes people, and just getting some of the behind the curtains looks at some of the inner workings of DraftKings and talking to them is always a great experience as well, because I know this goes for everyone out there. When we have an issue with DraftKings, we bitch and complain. I am guilty of it as well. And then you talk to DraftKings staff and you hear everything that goes on behind the scenes. And it's nice to put faces to names and to people and understand that they're not just doing they're not messing up on purpose, right? Things happen. Humans make mistakes, and sometimes the staff is just as frustrated as we are.
Yeah, and it's also cool because they had someone there, also like event staff, but they also had someone there who was like working on achievements and best ball products and other different things.
Yep.
You have a bunch of different type of players. You have people who rarely play. You have people who mass multi-enter every single contest, and it's nice for them to get feedback. I remember they asked me, say, "Hey, what do you think about best ball?" And I'm like, "I really don't like this one specific feature." We wrote it down, say, "Hey, we'll figure this out. Maybe not for this season, but for next season, we'll definitely get a change." And so I think from DraftKings perspective, getting boots on the ground, actually talking to people who play across a wide range of players helps them out on their end too.
Absolutely, and this goes for any industry, but meeting people in person and talking to them, drinking with them, especially joking with them, you know, there's benefits to be had from that, right? In the future, if I need something from DraftKings, or if DraftKings knows they need an honest feedback, they can come to me and vice versa. So that is always good. So we get the brunch moves. We hop on a bus. We go downtown. You saw the map earlier, and we go to Weighins. And this is one of the better part of the experiences last year. Did not disappoint this year either. So basically, front row at the Weighins for Emmett and Taporia. And Moose, we were actually sitting second row right behind Taporia's family. I saw some tweets today about Taporia's girlfriend. Shout out to her. She
Yeah.
was sitting in front of us. We got a front row view of that as well. But I love going to the weigh-ins because we get to see these dudes and women, and they're huge and just physically fit. And the seats, because where we sit during the actual show, we don't get to sit this close. You don't get to see these athletes that up
Mhm.
close, really. And it's always a spectacle to see the ceremonial weigh-in.
Oh, and if you love UFC, you love anything. If you go to these weigh-ins, they will get you so hyped for whatever you're about to do. You want to fight going in, you want to go in the octagon yourself after watching these weigh-ins. You're like, I want to fight somebody. I am hyped.
I know.
So it is great. You have the host, you have the ringside girls, you have all the people coming in, all the fighters. There's loud music, people are cheering. It's a really good time.
Yeah, and you get to see the families all the time, right? I remember
Yeah.
last time we saw, I'm trying to think, oh, Juliana Pena's family was there. Uh, Nunes family was there. Like, you get to see the families. Like, these people have actual lives. You see their families rooting for them on the edge of their seats, taking pictures, just like normal people, right? Like, you take pictures of your son and daughter's ballet or sports or what. These families are taking pictures of their son, daughter, sister, brother, friend,
Mhm.
husband at weigh-ins. So it's super cool to see. And just to prove we were actually there, this is a video you took just to show how close we were. I'm not sure if the sound's going to come through. This is me hosting this stream, so God knows how this is going to look. So I'm going to. Can you hear this, Most?
Let's see.
If you're not, it's not that important. Anyways, this is how close we were. We were basically second row. Got to see all these guys, and yeah, it was super cool. All right.
Yeah, I
So
cannot hear it, but
that's
I'll
fine.
put it on my Twitter account.
Okay, that's fine. So there's the proof for those of you who said we weren't there. There's the proof. So, all right. So weigh-ins happened. Anything else you want to talk about from weigh-ins?
Uh, they're really fucking big people.
It's huge, dude.
I'll just
Massive.
say that.
Yeah, just massive, massive, fit human beings. All right. So
Yeah, and then they get on the scale, and there's like, this person is 122. And I'm like, I weigh 60 pounds more than them, and they would destroy me.
man,
But yeah, that's it.
no, it's crazy. It is crazy. So weigh-ins get us hyped. Go back to the hotel. We actually hop on a live stream in the hotel in between. So just again, jam-packed schedule. But this is, and I don't, if someone's watching this and you didn't participate, I'm sorry. But if you're VIP and you have a host, generally during these live finals or any events, your host will take you out to dinner. And it was, I would say, 12 of us, 12 or 14 of us that their hosts and their participants, their clients were there. So we went out to this super nice dinner, restaurant Madure, which once again, we had high expectations for this. Most exceeded expectations every single step of the way. DraftKings took care of the bill. We had some food we've never tasted before. Just again, this and when after last year's live final, when we went to an excellent restaurant in Dallas, this was one of the highlights that we had circled on our itinerary when it was coming up this time
Yeah.
around, most, and it did not disappoint.
Yeah, it's like you got a cheese board for appetizer, and I'm like, it's just cheese. How can it be so good? And I'm sitting there eating like honeycombs and peaches with brie cheese, and it's melting in my mouth. And I'm like, this is incredible. Like, definitely some of the most delicious food I've had in a while.
Yeah, so if you want, go look up the menu. Restaurant Mador. It's in, I think it's actually in Sawgrass. It's right next to TBC Sawgrass, by the way. Lots of golf courses down there. We didn't have a second to play any golf. Not that we'd have been worthy of playing on any of those courses, but excellent restaurant. Again, go look up the menu if you're interested to see some of the food that they offer. So, again, this is a full day. This is a full day, Moose.
Yeah, and shout out to the wait staff there. Excellent wait staff. Friendly, funny, knowledgeable. See you laughing there. But yeah, great wait staff too. It seemed like everyone in Jacksonville that we've met that lived there, all cool people.
Should we tell the story about the waiter? I don't want to get in trouble. I feel like the
No,
restaurant is not watching.
Yeah. I would not say that in case the restaurant is one of 10 people watching.
Okay. All right. Well, if you guys want that story,
good people.
if you guys want that story, hit us up in Discord, add us in Discord, and we'll tell you the story. So, all right. So, again, it was such a long day Friday that I said I can't make my lineups Friday night. Saturday morning, wake up, make my lineups. We talk about the experience. We go down there 10:30. We get there around 10:30, so an hour before it starts. So now we're just sitting there, nervously waiting. And let's just eat our feelings because they had a huge brunch buffet in the suite set up at the arena. Arena's small, but nice. I don't think a bad seat in the house. And I will say, Moose, the suite we had was the biggest suite I've ever been in. I don't know how many people it fit, but it was. If you've ever been to a typical arena suite and you think it holds like, I don't know, 12 or 15 people, this was probably at least double that. Just a massive, massive suite space, and as you see on screen here, pretty decent seats for the fights.
Yeah, I think it probably held 40 people or so. They had 2 or 3 refrigerators. They had their own little own bar station, 2 buffet tables worth of food. It was incredible. Yeah, I loved it.
And now for what I say is unequivocally the worst part of MMA live finals. It is the viewing experience. And there is not a single thing that DraftKings or FanDuel, if FanDuel did it, could do about it. It's not their faults. It is just the way it is set up. And again, this is my opinion. Maybe Moose, maybe you feel different. Maybe other qualifiers feel different. But I've had the same experience twice now, and it's unequivocally the worst part. So as you can see here, we're used to watching the fights on TV up close and personal. You can see every single second of the action. You can't see that in the cage here. You can kind of generally see what's going on. You can't see what's happening on the ground. You can't really see if punches land. And I'm going to try to circle this here on screen. So you have the cage. Then there's the arena like Jumbotron above the cage, which has an actual live feed. It is down to the millisecond, the same as what you're seeing inside the cage. However, that's really far away, and it was kind of flickering sometimes. And then you see up top here, this was in our suite or right next to our suite, this TV, which was the best viewing experience. However, it was about a second behind the arena feed. So for the best viewing experience, we would see it, but we would hear cheers or oohs and ahs a second before anything happened. So from a sweating perspective, not having your laptop, having your phone, not being able to see what's going on, easily, hands down, the worst part. It's probably why I'll never go to a UFC event live unless it's paid for. But I will say, but I'll just, and again, there's no alternative because they could have put us in the seats. They could have put us front row. But then you're sitting, you got to figure this isn't an NFL game. This is an NBA game where it's over in 2.5, 3 hours. We were there for like 7 hours. You can't just sit in those shitty seats for like 7 hours and have a good experience either. So it's pick your poison when watching a UFC event. I guess the best of what's possible. But I just I love sweating. I love watching the fights. So I think that part is the biggest downfall.
It is, and I think for similar to boxing, like at least it's just punches. You have ground games. He's like it. The very first fight made me think of it because Dumas was in a guillotine, and you're like, oh shit, is he actually in a guillotine? If you're watching it on TV, you're like, oh, I can just see this, but you're like, I don't want to watch the top TV that has the best viewing experience because if people start cheering, I don't know what's really happening. It's really different, but it is cool, I will say. If you see someone get punt, like the Trevor Peak fight, that was really cool.
That shit was electric, right?
You would watch, in front of you, and it was a really big hit. You look up, you see it the second time, you look up, you see it the third time. You're like, yep, that's great.
That fight, by the way, that was the loudest. Excuse me, Christ. That was the loudest the arena was the entire time. That's the best part of the viewing experience is when the crowd gets into it, when you have knowledgeable fans, and it's just an absolute bloodbath. Like that one, and then the Barber and Rebus fight, which did not go my way. The crowd was super loud, and that was super fun.
Yeah, it was definitely fun. Like I said, I'd say viewing experience probably 6 out of 10. I don't know if you would agree with that. Like it was cool, but it could. It's like that's like the ceiling of it.
Yeah, it is a ceiling, and again. There are going to be times here, and when I talk about how I finished, that's going to seem very ungrateful. And if so, I apologize. I understand that many people would love to have this experience or finish where I finished. So believe me, I'm very aware of my complaints here. We're trying to pick. We're just telling our truthful experiences and what was a fantastic weekend. So, all right. Anything else you want to talk about the experience before we get into the actual contest itself?
My least favorite sweat in UFC is that first 10 minutes before they start the first fight because that's when it's going to be a cancellation.
Yeah.
And there's no like sound on these TVs. It's not like you can hear what DC and Rogan and all them people are saying. You're just sitting there like, what is going on? And because I guess there was a fight cancellation, they never said that they were doing this first fight later. So you were sitting there for like 10 minutes, like what's going on? What is happening? And then finally the first fight started. It had like a clock up there and it was nice. But yeah, what did you think, Brian, with the lack of commentary? Were you okay with that?
Again, I'm in a minority here. I like most of the UFC commentary if you just take it for what it's worth. But I do like having some context of what's going on. I like
Yeah.
hearing DC get excited. You know, though, there was one place where you could hear commentary. It was actually in the bathroom. So if you wanted to stay in the bathroom and just listen to
Mhm.
the fight, you could have done that. But again, no full experience package.
And DraftKings also had a tilt room, if you want to explain that.
Yeah, I don't have the picture up here. No, not a single person knew what it was actually for. So we had the giant suite, and then outside the suite there was like, if anyone's ever been to like a conference, there was like a little meeting area. There was like 6 or 8 chairs, some tables. Like if you actually wanted to take meetings with people, right, clients. Um, no one else used it except me after I lost. And I just said I'm gonna go out here and be not around people for a couple minutes. I think that's what it was for. I don't know if it was actually what it was for. That's what I used it for. That's what I called it out on Twitter for. Um, but I'll just say I'm glad that they had it this time around.
Exactly. Yeah. I think other than that, that was I think all about the experience. I don't know if they ended up doing this or not. I know we left kind of early, but it did happen last year. I think they had some tickets for this year. You do get to go in the octagon after the fight, which if that's your thing, that's cool.
Yeah, they took. I feel like this is backwards. The top 4 finishers of the live final went down to the octagon. I feel like it should have been the bottom 4 finishers just to boost their experience a little bit. But it was the top 4. So Doink and some of those other guys went down to the octagon, took some pictures. So it's another cool part of the experience that you just don't generally get to do ever.
Yep.
So, all right, let's get into the contest here. And again, if you guys have questions about the contest, this is the strategy part. A lot of you are tuning in for this. We will answer those as well. So we talked about the play down rounds 1, 2, 3. These are the top 3 prizes: 250K, 100K, 60K. So Moose, this was a 15-man contest. I had 2 entries, 2 in 15 chance at 250K, which is fantastic. Would love to have that. And then that very elusive Tournament of Champions tickets, for those who don't know. All the Millionaire Maker winners throughout the year, all the live final winners, some other random event winners, they all get pulled together and play a free roll for the Super Bowl for $1 million, free to enter, winner take all. And I would have loved to have that in addition to the 250K. It was not to be seen. So 250K up top, 100K. I mean, really, really great payouts for a 15-man contest. This was much more than last year's live final, so we'd love to see that. And then if you look at the full payout table, if you qualified at all, even if you got eliminated in the first round, you were guaranteed at least $2,500. So I had 5 entries. I was guaranteed $12,500. I think Moose, I still haven't done the full calculations, but it cost me just around 5K to qualify. I was fortunate to qualify very early for all of my tickets. So I was already guaranteed $7,500 in profit. Everything was free roll after that. So once again, can't complain about the actual result.
Yeah, and if you made it to the live final, even if you got last place there, you're taking home 10K. Pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly. And again, you're not going to feel like that. I know, shout out to Clockwork, our Discord member. He finished in, I think, 11th place, got 10K. He'll look back on it. He'll be happy with 10K, I'm sure. But again, when you're that close, you want the 250K.
Of course, yeah.
So really, I went into the mindset, I'm getting at least 20K with 2 entries. Let's go for the gusto. Let's try to get this first place prize. And let's look at my lineup. So finished 5th for 30K and 8th for 20K. So a grand total of 50K. And shout out to Leo M, who was in the contest. And afterwards, he said, "Congrats, Brian. Great work, 50K." And very ungratefully, I said, "Thanks, man, but I'm really disappointed. I really don't." He's like, "Oh, I'm sorry." So, that was ungrateful of me to say, but 50K is 50K. A lot of people would love to have 50K. I'm still happy to have 50K 2 days later, 3 days later. But it stings in the moment. I don't like losing. I love to win, and I wanted the 250K. So in comparison, 50K wasn't that great.
Yeah, I mean, just call yourself Dan Ige now, I guess, huh?
Yeah, 50K. Dan, 50K Ige. So, all right. So as far as the sweats go, this lineup you see here that was in 5th. Actually, let's talk about the 8th place lineup, because
Okay.
it had 4 favorites and 2 dogs. And my 2 dogs won the first 2 fights of the night. Jack Jenkins, Cedric Dumas. We're loving it, Moose, because now it just means if
Yeah.
my 4 favorites win, I'm likely winning 250K. You
Yeah.
get 6 out of 6 in the 15-player contest. You're gonna win more often than not. Peak
Yep.
immediately loses as the most popular 3-round fighter. Rebus loses, so we go 4 out of 6. If Rebus scores 100 or more, which is very possible, given the first round and how action-packed that fight actually was, I still get second place with this lineup for 100K. Could not happen.
Mm.
Now, if we go back to the other lineup, this one, Started out with Brundage losing at 8,700. He was in the winning lineup, by the way. And I knew
Yeah.
just from playing a bunch of small field contests, micro field contests, whatever you want to call it, you can win with 25 points from your 8K fighter. It's not ideal, but you can win. Then we get the upset with Mari Scala over Trevor Peak. We get the Josh Van 80-point win from a 7,200 dog that no one else has. We get Rebecca breaking the slate. We get the Magny decision. All we need is Gabriel Santos at 9,200 minus 275 or so to win against Onama. And if he wins, I win the live final at 250K. He gets knocked out. And I think devastating is the only way I could describe it most.
Yeah, it was that's the perfect thing. We're all yelling because again, he was popular, so everyone in the suite was yelling, like, "Grab him, submit him." He says, it's a ground game person. He's not a fighter. He's not a boxer. And Onama's just crushing him. And I think the only person that really Onama that cared was the person behind us who eventually won.
Yep.
And he's cheering, he's going loud, and like, hey, congratulations.
I know.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
that's the worst. That's the other worst
I mean,
part about the live finals too, right? We were talking about that with other contestants beforehand. Like, it's not like NFL or NBA where they're binary outcomes. This happens for me, therefore it's bad for you. That doesn't happen in those other live finals when you're cheering. It happens specifically in MMA. So it's really gross when you lose 200K and the guy behind you is cheering his face off. Again, shout out to Donkey, right? If I was in his spot, I would be too, right? I'm not going to hate on him.
yeah.
It's just the nature of the live final. It just fucking sucks when it happens. God.
Yeah, no, and I will say, I don't know how deep in contests you want to go, but like Van being, you were the only person who had him. No one else had Double Z. Do you think those are the spots in like an MMA live final where if you can get someone who you're literally the only person from the entire fight that has it, like
here's the thing.
How beneficial is that?
Here's the thing, and I think if you take away anything from this video, this is the most important. When you play these contests of this size, 10 to 15 players, right? When you play the big GPPs, 50,000 players, 20,000, 100,000 players, we can pretty accurately predict ownership, right? And even if it's a couple percentage points off, we project this guy for 2%, he's 4%, whatever. We project this guy for 22, he's 19. Same shit, right? That's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
When you get down to 200 players, smaller field GPPs, it expands, right? And we see the 30% fighter be 60%, and we see the 15% fighter be 5%. That is very predictable as well. We know that. However, once you get into these contests, it's very player dependent. Like, I can't say enough times how many times over the past year when I've been playing the 5K, the 2K, the 1K, and I go in there and I'm like, this lineup, this particular guy will be the low owned differentiator, and he's like 50%. I'm like, what the fuck? Or like, I think this guy's gonna be popular. Let me use him to block the others, and he's like 12%. I'm like, what is going on? It just happens. It happens, right? So when I was running, I was looking at optimals for other sites because I want to see what people are playing. I know that most people qualify through optimals of other sites through the first 2 rounds. So I thought Joshua Van was going to be like 33% owned. I thought people were going to use him because he was going to go the distance, was cheap. I thought for sure people would use him. I was the only one that had him. I thought Jamal Emmers, who was the most mispriced fighter on the card, would be the most popular outside of Taporia. Only one person had him, right? And once, I think Friday night through Saturday morning, you start hearing other contestants say, well, we can't just play the cash game lineup. We got to get a little different. Got to look crazy if we want to finish top 3, top 2. And people really differentiate it. So I would say sometimes it's really difficult to project, and you're better off just playing your best lineup unless it truly is like the optimal lineup from other sites. Then you're not going to play that. But if you're optimal from the Occupy model or your own research, it's hard to really care about ownership because sometimes it's really unpredictable.
Yeah, and I think you can take a look at. There's other small contests that you can look on DraftKings. I know the Thunderdome. I think it's the $5,000 one. There's 6 entries. You can just take a look at that every week and kind of see what people are doing. You'll see that sometimes there's just weird shit that happens in these micro field contests, and so sometimes you have to just go in the mindset of this is what I'm going to play. The only thing I would add for that is, Brian, how do you know you're not getting dupes or 2-3 dupes or anything like that in these micro fields?
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. That's one of the trickiest parts, right? Is how different do you get without sacrificing the floor?
Mhm.
How do you know for sure? And again, this goes down to knowing your opponents, right? In some of the smaller field contests that I play every week, I pretty much know what's like half the field is going to play. But like maybe two
Mhm.
weeks ago, I was playing the 1K and the 2K, preparing for this contest. In the 1K, the one fighter I had was 15% owned. In the 2K, he was 50% owned. And it's a difference of like 12 people versus 15 people in the whole contest. So it's like shit like that that you really truly can't predict. Um, so I don't know. So I will say here in this contest, in this, let's go back. Let's look at both lineups. In this lineup, I thought that Mari Scala would be lower owned than Peak. We got that right. I thought Magny would be one of the lowest owned favorites. He was 20%. Uh, and I thought Santos, Rebecca, and Brundage would be popular. And I thought Van would be popular as well. So I thought Magny was going to be my differentiator. Plus, this didn't have a main event fighter. So I knew this was
Yeah.
automatically going to be different, right? So
Mhm.
that was my thought here. Second one, Saporia, Ribas, Ricci, Peak, Jenkins, Dumas. I didn't think people would have Jenkins because I thought Emmers would be popular. Dumas, he was catching some steam, so I thought there's a chance he would be what he was. But I didn't think people would play two female fighters in Ribas and Ricci, and turned out to be accurate. I was the only person that played both, so I was happy with how I played both lineups. Both lineups could have gotten there, didn't get the luck, but all in all, I'm very happy, and I will say much happier than I was post MMA final last year with how I built my lineups.
Yes, exactly. Because I know you pretty much blew it. So
Well,
you
again,
know,
your
only
first
positive.
first MMA live final, hadn't played a ton of smaller field up to that point. Try to get cute with the main event. Like
Yep.
if this was last year, I would have played Eminem one, Tapuria in another. So
Yeah.
no, I feel really good about where I am. So
Cool.
so I see there's a question about the King of the Beach. So we'll talk about that here in a second. Let's finish out the analysis here, Moose, before we talk about these other live finals coming up. This was Doinky's winner, 330K. He had Onama at three total people had. He was in one of the optimal lineups from the site, so I'm not too shocked he wasn't like 6%, that he was in 20% instead. Really, no true differentiators outside of Onama here, so just an excellent lineup. The big difference played Mariscal over Peak, and
Mhm.
had only 5 out of 6 winners, still won the whole thing. So big ups to him.
Again, goes to show that if you get your 5 of 6, and these are all 20, 30%, 60% owned fighters. Now, if you look at if you played this in a 150 max big GPP, all 20 to 60% fighters may not necessarily be an EV lineup, but here in a microfield, this is definitely an EV lineup, and this was a great lineup. Shout out Donkey, good
Yeah,
job.
and I would say like this is maybe one pivot off one version of the optimal. Taporia, main event favorite. Onama was
Mhm.
somewhat popular at 7K. Rebecca was popular, 8,400. Ricci was one of the cheapest favorites. Brundage was popular against Dumas. And then the biggest difference really is this Peak was the favorite and higher owned. And if you flip to Mariscal as a coin
Yeah.
flip and you get lower ownership, that's the one flip he
Hmm.
made. And, excellent lineup.
Yes, 100%.
Cool. So, all right, let's close out the show here. If you guys have final questions, let's throw in the chat. Takeaways. I think we've mostly hit on the takeaways from the live final and stuff, but uh, let's talk about Eagles question, Moose. The King of the Beach is coming up. That's an NFL qualifier. And then we also have this new thing, King of the Desert, that the DraftKings employees are talking to us about. It just released a couple of weeks ago. Essentially, what they're
Mhm.
doing is 150 qualifiers for PGA. I think the ticket value is like 10K or something, maybe a little more. And 150 qualifiers for NFL. All 300 will meet the weekend of the Super Bowl out at TPC Scottsdale for the waste management. The
Is that
PGA,
true?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't think all 300 meet in Arizona.
I'm pretty sure for the King of the Desert. Are you checking the promo page now to see?
Yeah. Yeah. Top 15 finishers and online round two will advance to live final round in Scottsdale.
Oh, my. Okay, sorry. Okay, so it's a play down like the MMA one,
Yeah.
online play downs, and then the finalists, all of them. What I was trying to say was both NFL and PGA qualifiers will go there.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, apparently they're going to play TPC Scottsdale. They're going to have private courses for you to play if you qualify, and then they'll have the PGA final that week. Sunday will be the Super Bowl live final for the King of the Desert NFL side. Looks incredible. Moose, maybe you can talk a little bit about why that's better than like the NFL, NBA, super big live finals, and how they're much more affordable.
Yeah. So as we take a look at like, if you try to look at the live final that Brian and I went to, you see some of these 200, $600,000 they're big ticket names, or if they have the dollar contest, it's 20,000 entries you have to beat for one ticket.
Right.
It's very discouraging for the casual players and very like professional. Uh, spend a lot of money to try and get it. And I think you and I were talking about it before. I think they have a $5 contest
Yep.
for it. And let me just look.
Uh,
Yeah, $5 contest for it. For smaller bankrolls, that's perfect. If it's within your bankroll, absolutely throw some allocation into it. Worst case scenario, you're out 15 times, 40 weeks, couple $100. Again, if that's all within your bankroll over the course of the year, for the chance of a lifetime, you get a chance to have an all expense paid, live the high life with all the professionals, talk to DraftKings staff, eat at some of these incredibly fancy restaurants. So for the casual players, I love this type of concept. We've been telling them for years. Every time we link up with your hosts and other DraftKings people, you got to make a live final for the smaller guy, just because they don't get they just don't get that type of they don't have that ability to do that. So.
right. So they're not going away with King of the Beach either. We've been told that they will
Yeah,
have King of the Beach again as well, which is in like December or so. And
yeah,
like the King of the Desert, the qualifying ticket is much cheaper. Think in the range of $10,000 to $15,000 for a ticket versus $60,000 to $70,000 for a ticket, like it is for the NFL and NBA and MLB live finals for DK.
mm,
So, um, and yeah, even if you're not like, even if you have like maybe not a baller bankroll, but you're intermediate, right? They have $150
mm,
qualifiers, less than 500 people, less than 200 people. So very,
yeah.
very attainable for most bankroll levels. And again, it's not, you don't have to pay $5,000 to enter. You don't have to beat 5,000 people to enter. So,
Mhm.
I would say if you're willing to take away, if you're willing to set aside a little portion of your bankroll, this King of the Desert and King of the Beach coming up, certainly the best way to experience it. The MMA final was $17,000 tickets compared to 60,000 once again. So these niche sport live finals and these secondary live finals, I would say, is the best way to try to get the experience what we've been talking about in the show.
Absolutely. And I mean, think of it this way: how many times, if you're not in the high end bankroll, you're in the smaller bankrolls. Even if you get the 11, the $100, $150 tickets, uh, you're getting very big chances at 6-figure paydays, in some cases seven-figure paydays, where you only have to beat 150 people a couple of times, or they're not as top heavy as some of the other top GPPs. I'm looking at the PGA top prize, 500,000 to first, 200K to second.
Yep.
Any other contest is 500,000 to first, 20,000 second.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the chance at a life changing payday on satellite tickets like that is great.
Yeah, and again, as we talk about the Ultimate Guide, live finals generally are bankroll drainers, but if it's something that you're looking to do, there are many DFS players who exclusively play for live finals. And if that's all you do, just understand that you're going to go 4 months or so without many returns. And then there's a chance that you don't even get your money back when you get to the end. So uh, it's a give and take, but the experience is well worth it, I would say. So, Moose, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Can you qualify for more live finals, please?
That's what all of my guests said this weekend, and I will do my best. I'll talk to my accountant, and we'll drain this bankroll for NFL. I will say it gets you hype, not only to try to get back to another live final, but talking to other really smart people the whole time, right? Like
Mhm.
everyone there was super sharp. To get to talk to them and just get you fired up to come back and get back on the grind even harder to win some more contests, win some more tickets.
And it's cool because, I never really thought of ever going to Jacksonville. And, basically they plan a trip for you.
True.
You can do different things within a city. It's like, oh, you get a chance to experience a new city that you probably would have never gone to, or maybe like Scottsdale, a city that you would always want to go to,
True.
and basically plan a trip around that. So it's pretty cool. You get out of the house, get to go somewhere.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, guys, that'll do it for this video. If you want to follow Moose, if you're new to us, Moose posts a lot of UFC DFS post lock statistics, so make sure you check him out on Twitter at CFB_Moose. You can follow me at Brian Jester FF. I'm mostly tilting about MMA on Twitter, but we'll go follow there as well. All of our MMA DFS content, all the content I use to help qualify for the live final, that is in the description below. I also put the contest link to the live final, so you want to go in and check out what other people did, check out the ownership, look at the lineup constructions, look at some of the sweats we had. That link is also in the description below, so make sure you check that out. And again, if you have any questions, if you're watching this on replay, drop a comment or join us in our Discord server, occupyfantasy.com/Discord. If you enjoyed the video, give us a thumbs up. We appreciate that. And make sure to subscribe here on YouTube so you get notified when we go live or upload any UFC DFS videos. So for Moose, I'm Brian from Occupy Fantasy. Thank you for listening. And normally I end it with good luck, but I guess I'll say good luck this weekend in UFC Vegas, whatever the fuck it is. All right, guys, bye.
Bye.